amateur sport, professional sport, related to the business world. So many of us are dealing with different levels of sport at different times, and there's some crucial avenues that we need to be able to best harness. And this podcast coming up right now, a good long-term friend of mine, Francis, he's going to explain all of the details about how to best work in a sporting and corporate environment. So let's get stuck in right now. Welcome to another podcast, and I want to welcome a good friend of mine who's on the screen here with me, Francis. Mate, welcome, and thank you very much for jumping on board.
No, thanks, Jason. It's great to catch up with you, and also hopefully give you some insightful things that we can talk about and relate rugby to the business world.
Yeah, absolutely. So, mate, let's dive in, because you've had an amazing career, and just for everyone's sake, you know, obviously we've known each other for a couple of decades. I think let's not get into some of the banter of the sporting side of things over the years, but no, it's good to be able to chat, and it's been amazing to watch you with all of the work you've done, particularly over in WA and rugby, mate. It's been really awesome.
I really appreciate it, Jason, and look, I've seen you grow from.
No.
I've seen you grow from an athlete through to a business leader, and it's an amazing journey to have seen that as well, mate. So full credit to what you've done. So yeah,
awesome. Let's dive in. Do players' personalities really get heavily tested in a rugby type sense? Like, I know that, you know, like it's really physical. You play all your positional training drills and stuff like that. You'll have the A team play the B teams and all these type of things. Does it get as, you know, sort of really confrontational, and do you really have to do a lot of player management around behavior and personality?
Look, it does get heated at times, and that's what you want really when you're competing for the same position. Usually, you find it's guys that are trying to compete, and they might be in the twos, and they're trying to get into the top team, and they're up against a guy that they might have grown up with, gone through the club with, and he's just got an opportunity. Or the girls, so we've got great girls teams as well over here. So it's just all it comes down to it's the passion, but at the same time they'll have it out, and then they'll be running around laughing, probably with a couple of black eyes or something like that afterwards.
Yeah,
but it's all part of it, and you can tell with personalities, and like you're saying that there's born footy players, but there's also, it's kind of like with swimming. Like there's born, there's people that are just gonna make it. Like, I mean, you and I grew up with Ian Thorpe, and you just look at him and you knew that he was going to do amazing things. And so and I think it's your 1% to 2%, and everyone else is some are aspirational, some are, look, I just play the game because I love it, and those are you got so many different spectrums to go on in the sense of where people see themselves and how they want to play their rugby. But you have to cater for every aspect. So you need to have a program in there that's going to put a pathway for your athletes that want to become elite and have that stepping stone there. But also you need to be able to have a pathway there for kids just to learn skills, the discipline, and just loving the game of rugby. I mean, there's so many values around it, and it's also about the camaraderie as well. So as people play for that, you find that your individual athletes that are looking for higher honours, as much as they love to play for a team, they make decisions based on what's best for them. And at a club level, at an amateur level, or even at a professional level, every player has a price, and it's really up to the club as at the local level, or if it's at say your Western Force or your Waratahs level, etc. You have to create an environment where someone's price is as high as you can push it, because in the world of sport, doesn't matter if it's amateur or professional, someone's got more money than you. And I say that at an amateur level, but I mean, someone's going to pay $100 more a game for a player to play, or they might buy them a car, or those sorts of things. But the reality is that if you create an environment where the player values that development and over getting an extra $100 a game, then you've done your job. And then that's the same thing for what we did. I mean, 2017, obviously the Force were punted.
Yep.
Rightly or wrongly. I mean, that's a debate for another time.
Yeah.
But the reality is that
I don't think anyone really supported that, apart from the 2 or 3 people that made the decision. So we will park that for now.
Exactly. But look,
Twiggy's done a good job, so it's good.
Yeah, exactly. But what it did was it gave us a chance to look at the foundations and go back and really strategize on what we could do for rugby to build it up. But at the same time, it also created a chasm for players that were almost there. Well, where do they go? And players like Michael McDonald and Carla Tazzano went to the Waratahs for an opportunity. So they made the decision there because at the time there was no, didn't have the global wrapper rugby. You had to make a decision based on what's best for you. So there is a price. And
well, if I can jump in there with that, I think the part that, like the sort of the lessons in that type of scenario, is I really feel that when those type of challenges or negatives happen in any business, I really feel that, like, I mean, with the whole COVID thing over the last few years and that as well, I've been talking to all our guys, and I really do see it as, when there's a crisis, it equals danger plus opportunity. If you think about COVID, there is a massive danger there. There always has been, both physically, mentally, economically, politically, like there's, like death and everything, right? Like there's a lot of danger. But if you see it for what it is and you do the right things, etc., you can also identify there's huge opportunity there, whether that's business growth, whether that's a completely new industry, whether it's an avenue for personal growth. There's so many different avenues there for opportunity. But I think with what you guys did with the Western Force, I think that becomes a really critical part there as well, because you were dealt a big blow, removed from Super Rugby, but I actually think that becomes a really good opportunity there, for you guys, which you did take. There's the opportunity, like you said, to rebuild. There's an opportunity there to look internal at the grassroots, at the development side. And I also think it does create a nice vacuum as well. So a couple of the guys may leave to pursue other opportunities. There's that word again. But it also enables you guys to literally go back to your grassroots, to use that phrase, but go back to basics and build it from the ground up. And I think what has started to happen there is huge. And I think it's fantastic.
100%. And you cover on the danger. I mean, the danger for us that we had to look at it was, what's it going to do to rugby in the state? We lost the pathways that we'd had into the Force, and as the players that I mentioned already, and there was a lot of other professional players making a decision based on what's best for them, because they know they have a career lifespan.
Yeah, and it's not as much as big as what people think.
Look, it's an injury away from ending.
Yeah, correct.
That's the reality. No one can swim forever. No one can play rugby forever. That's just professionally anyway. Everyone tries to lace up the boots, but me included. But look, the reality was that
just on that, the closest I've come to a 15-a-side rugby game in the last 12 years or whatever it is I started refereeing last year. So I've actually been refereeing in seconds and thirds and stuff, running the sideline in first and that. But which I never thought I'd be in that side, but the boys have been at me for many, many years saying, come on, satisfy the power side that you like, or the controversial side, or the authority side. And so I've gone eventually, all right, fine, I'll do it. But just like I actually enjoyed it too, to be honest. So I've joined the dark side.
Look, I mean, that's the thing. Refereeing, to be honest, is something that I do from the sideline, unfortunately,
I think
mostly
we all do.
because, yeah, and look, and from the armchair, and look, it does take. It is critical to continue to keep getting referees, because without it, there's no game. And the other thing there is, look, as much as probably your friends joking about being in the middle with the whistle and the authority there, I think also it's the relationships that you build with the players as well.
Yeah.
And having that.
Speaking on that quickly, mate, that I can be completely honest with you in saying 90% of the reason why I did that was because I felt the need to lean in and help direction what I sort of wanted with the game.
Yeah.
And when I sort of stop and think about what I did with that, it's exactly the same as what I think people need to do with business and that as well. It's like, if you want to see change, you've got to be the one that invokes that change. And for me, with, say, rugby union, it's been there's sort of been a lot of lean years for Australian rugby regarding Bledisloes and all that type of stuff. And there's been a lot of challenges. I was in Japan for the Bledisloe 3 or 4 years ago when I was there, and I got a little bit mouthy, I will say, after the game at the tunnel there with a couple of the Aussie boys and a couple of the Kiwis, and we're all going really well. But Ray Castle, the CEO at the time, came over and the chairman of the board, we won't use names, but the chairman of the board came over, and they had really good, and she gave me the card and a mobile, and we sat down and chatted afterwards when I got back and all these type of things. But I think what that demonstrates is, for me personally, it's like, if you want to see change with the way things are done or some improvement, we've got to be prepared to actually sink some time and effort in. We've got to lean in. And for me, with that, I felt that, there was probably a little bit too much whistle happy refereeing at times. I found that, we're trying, there was a lot of sort of subbies rugby here in Sydney and that was trying to be refereed from a super rugby level. And I sort of went, you know what, rather than whinging and complaining and that type of stuff, try volunteering. And it's like, so you volunteer, you get in and do that. And you're able to have a good relationship with the players. You're able to, you do the chats beforehand with the captains and the front three and that type of stuff, and you go through it. But I've been really open about it as well, and saying, like, I'm going to allow the game to flow, because this is not about me. This is about you guys. You're here to have fun with your mates. You're here to enjoy rugby. If there's a little, obviously you're going to referee it as you need to, but you're going to run it based on how the game needs to run. And I think a lot of people, there's probably more of that needs to be done in not just sports, but I think in business as well. Lean in and create that direction and be that change that you want.
No, I couldn't agree more. And sort of that sums up the path to becoming president of Rugby WA. So I was just a player at the time at my local club at Wanneroo, and I wanted to make changes, so I got onto the board, and then I eventually became president and chair, and then put my hand up to do the same thing for rugby in Western Australia. It's something that I agree with you. If you sit there and criticise from the sidelines, you're not making a change. You're just adding to the noise, and you're just being part of the problem as well. So put your hand up. And for me, it was just, I consider myself a bit of a wartime president, in the sense of, you lost the entire pathway, and you had to redo everything. Fortunately for me, I had some great people around me, and I think that's probably key for business and for sport. Is you can have every plan in the world to execute, but it's who's executing it, and how they're doing it. And I think we had an academy system, and this is when we lost the force as well, but still had an academy system a couple of years later, where this coach Steve Anderson is the director of rugby for Rugby WA, who's now the director of rugby for the International Rugby Academy in Australia. So it's over east, so the one they brought over from New Zealand as a franchise. So he's been obviously pilfered by them, but our academy had a 78% success rate for professional players. So we were able to grab, and kids like Michael McDonald and Carla Desano went through that program. And even now we still have we still kept that 78%, even though we lost the pathway until obviously Andrew and Nicola Forrest came in, and with Minderoo, Tatarang, and also for Global Rapid Rugby. But before that, we had players going to Japan, we had players going to, over east, going overseas.
Yeah.
They were still getting professional contracts.
Yeah,
and
UK and France, they picked up a lot of good rugby talent from Australia because of the challenges that we were having here in the sport. So
no, absolutely, and look, it's still the same. It's still the same. But look, and you also talk about changing from the top for Rugby Australia, and I won't mention probably the chairman at the time when you were there, because we had our dealings with him.
Yeah.
And he only came to Western Australia once after the whole Western Force issue. But at the same time, yeah, Raylene
what do they say? When you're not welcome.
Yeah, exactly. They weren't exactly. I think there was the Bledisloe game that I had here, 2019.
Yeah.
He was on the plane. He was on the plane out that night. So.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, but look, the guys leaving.
If I can just jump in there, if you think about it from a business point of view, like obviously amateur sport, professional sport, ultimately we know it's a business, right? Let's not kid ourselves. It is a business. So much of it has to be around the who, isn't it? It's like the who is more important than the how.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that a fair statement? Like by the sounds of what you've been saying, like there's a lot of hows to do things. There's a lot of whats and whens and wheres, etc. There's a lot of different strategies, a lot of implementation, but ultimately it comes down to the core group of who. And it sounds to me that you're a pretty big fan of the who is more important than the how.
Look, I mean, you have to have something there as a strategy, but as I said, like I mentioned, it's only as good as the people executing it. And look, in a business, you have the fortune of being able to interview and obviously provide a salary range and to attract good people with reputation of your business, etc. People want to work there. People don't necessarily always want to put their hand up to volunteer, especially if they know it's going to be a tough gig.
Yeah.
So one of the aspects is finding the right people, but at the same time, then letting them do what they need to do. And empowering. And look, I mean, as I said, I mentioned Steve Anderson. We under CEO during most of my time as president, and now we've got full circle. We've got Nathan Charles, who's former Wallaby, and so he's been in the role for coming up 12 months now. So so a bit of a full circle for a player, but. And look, those people you need to let do what they do best. I don't pretend to know how to run an academy, but I know someone that does. And so, rather than interfering or micromanaging or trying to do something that I'm not good at, why don't we let the people do what they need to do, and I think that's key. I can write a strategy, but I can't do it all myself. And I think that's key in any business or sport or club, even just a local club. It's key that you have a direction you want to go, make sure everyone's on the same page, but you can't do all the heavy lifting, or you quite simply just burn out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Hey guys, thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Profitable Practice Podcast. I would love nothing more than for you to be able to leave a review. I get so much joy out of listening and reading the amazing things that you guys say about this. So please subscribe to our channel, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Let's get some more fantastic information out there so all of us can grow the industry together. Cheers for now.